So there are significant benefits from continuing to focus on existing customers and building stronger relationships with them. And kind of a case in point, if you attended our Empower event, Robert Herjavec from the Shark Tank, who was our keynote speaker, he basically said, 85% of revenue comes from expansion from your existing base. So you want to expand with the customers you have by constantly upselling to them. So how do you go about doing this? And by implementing a QBR process as part of your account management sales motion. And I actually like referring not to QBRs, but I like calling them EBRs, executive business reviews, because you need to have these types of conversations with the executive. It's an executive level conversation from your end, talking to the executives at their end. And so having regular EBRs is the best way to maintain and strengthen your client relationships and avoid that customer churn. And so what you're seeing here, and this is taken from my boot camp, it's a sample EBR framework that I'm going to go through. And while I do go through this framework, the idea that I really stress in my boot camp is that the format or the framework itself isn't as important as just making your EBRs a priority and making the commitment to follow through with them with your customers. And this framework is really just meant to give you a place to start, especially if you haven't been doing these before, or maybe you've been doing them but more on an ad hoc basis, or maybe you feel that you're not doing them as well as you could be doing them. And so the biggest component of the EBR process is really steps 2 through 6, determining, the gaps, the concerns that you have, because you are their technical advisor, you're their virtual CIO, virtual CTO, in regards to, what are their security setup and risk exposure gaps? Where do you see gaps in their current compliance status? Where do you see gaps in terms of their network infrastructure and their network performance? Where do you see gaps or have concerns around their hardware or software situation? Where do you see gaps? They're telling you about their expansion, they're telling you about their growth plans, they're telling you about their business goals and objectives. Where do you have concerns as it relates to their technology infrastructure today? What changes need to be made to kind of support those expansion and growth plans? And looking at their staff and their employees, how are they impacted by all of this? And what needs to be done to help better protect them? And then you want to document, kind of all of these concerns along with your recommendations for improvements in that technology roadmap and technology budget. And, so a lot of partners that I spoke with that do this very, very regularly, and they've built a kind of a good solid process around this. This is their process that they use. And then they just use an Excel spreadsheet and a Word document. And that's what they bring to their EBR meetings, every quarter, every 6 months, depending on whatever that cadence is.